Yeah, I'm ready. Hi, Tracy.
Presentation's already on there, and
Okay.
I know you've been here before.
Yeah.
Do you want to use the clicker, or do you want to use the roller? Either with the clicker,
Let's do the clicker. It's just what I'm used to, yeah.
yeah, so it's, forward and that.
Okay.
And I'll leave it up here.
All right.
Okay?
So my boss, Ann Mayer, she may not be here this morning, so
Okay.
I'll do it if she's not here, but if she is,
Okay.
she'll do it.
Okay.
And I'll let her know.
And you'll let her know the clicker's there. And I'm here, so
Yeah.
I won't leave you guys hanging.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for accommodating.
You're welcome.
She provided to Tracy was more initial. You're taking care of us. Commissioner has provided you with this. So, I brought my thing to the party too, like, dress the party. She should be parking this way. Please start. It's a game time. Fine. No, whatever, we don't want to hold anything up. I'll find out. Oh, she parked, she's here, that's fine. She's here.
For the lady from the road, she's here now. Okay, there we go. Good afternoon. I'd like to call the study session meeting of February 14th, 2024 to order. City Clerk, may we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Lamb. Councilmember Gutierrez.
Here.
Councilmember Gregory. Mayor Pro Tem Ross. Mayor Carnevale.
Here. Would the City Clerk please read the statement of participation?
Public comment is the opportunity for members of the public to comment on items that are within the City Council's jurisdiction but not on the agenda. Because of restrictions contained in California law, the City Council may not discuss or act on any item not on the agenda, but may briefly respond to statements made or ask a question for clarification. The mayor may also request a brief response from staff to questions raised during public comment or request that a matter be agendized for a future meeting. Public comment will be limited to 3 minutes. If you're a member of the public and you wish to address the City Council, please complete a request to speak form available at the entrance and submit it to the city clerk. You will be called upon at the appropriate time. If you have materials or other items to present to the members of the City Council, please do not approach them. All materials shall be presented to the city clerk for distribution. I do not have any request to speak forms at this time, but if you are a member of the public and you wish to provide public comment to the City Council, please raise your hand. I see no hands raised.
Great, thank you very much. Item A, presentation of Riverside County Transportation Commission draft traffic relief plan.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. We're happy to have representatives from the RCTC here, and Aaron Hake, I believe, is going to start the presentation anyway.
Yes.
And he is, let me get the title correct, RCTC Deputy Executive Director.
Correct. Thank you, Charlie. Thank you, Mayor, Commissioner Gregory, members of the City Council. Honored to be here. Ann Mayer, our Executive Director, is on her way up. She'll be joining me for this presentation. We're all over the county today. This morning we had the commission meeting in downtown Riverside where Commissioner Gregory was, actually I should say second Vice Chair Gregory. He is now an officer of RCTC. And then David Knutson, our External Affairs Director, is here. He was speaking to a transit group in Hemet just now, and Ann was in Temecula just before this for the groundbreaking for a new auxiliary lane on I-15, and now we're happy to be here in Cathedral City, so we're coming from all over. So Ann will be joining me, but what we wanted to do here today is talk about RCTC's draft traffic relief plan. This is an opportunity for you, the council, and the public, and all of our stakeholders throughout the county to get engaged with an aspirational plan that we've put together and that we would like to see be implemented to improve the transportation situation here in Riverside County. Now, I just have to pause before I go any further and think about the fact that today is Valentine's Day, and happy Valentine's Day. I remember being in the Coachella Valley on Valentine's Day in 2019. And that day, the roads were impassable in many places. There were waterfalls coming down off of the mountains behind us. Getting around our transportation network that day was pretty bad. And I know there were a lot of repairs that were needed here in this city, and it's always something we're mindful of. And that's one of the reasons we have this plan here today, is we know that there's a lot to do to improve our system. So before I go any further, I do want to just briefly talk about who RCTC is. For those members of the public who may not be familiar, we are your transportation agency countywide. We funnel state and federal dollars into various projects, public transit, local roads, active transportation, so sidewalks and bicycle lanes. We also administer the current half-cent sales tax Measure A. The city today gets a portion of that revenue directly based on a formula that's set up so that every city gets its fair share. We also operate express lanes in western Riverside County on the 91 and the 15. So we do a variety of transportation things, and we're here as your advocate for transportation funding. We're involved, as I mentioned, in many different types of transportation projects. I was here about a year ago talking about Coachella Valley Rail. It's a project that we're working on, trying to get moving. We provide funding to Sunline for their transit operations. We partner with the Coachella Valley Association of Governments on many projects and help them with their I-10 interchange program and many other regional priorities that they have. And I've mentioned your local streets and roads that you get funding you get from Measure A. So we're here to partner with you, with CVAG, with Sunline, and all of the various stakeholders out here. But we know that there's more to do. And we asked residents of Riverside County recently what they saw as the greatest needs for investment in transportation through a public opinion survey that we did countywide. And here are just some of the top line results. We asked them a lot of questions, but we just wanted to give you some highlights. You can see that on people's minds are keeping roads in good condition, improving safety, And actually, this is focused on the Coachella Valley and keeping senior, student, disabled, and veteran bus fares low. As you go into the western part of the county, you see a lot more about traffic congestion and what can we do to relieve that. So based on that public opinion survey, as well as public outreach we've been doing since 2019, we put together the draft traffic relief plan, which you have a copy of at your dais. It's on our website, and I'll share how to get a deeper look into that in a minute. It identifies over $25 billion of transportation improvements that we've seen as critical based on the feedback from our cities, the county, and other stakeholders throughout the county. What's important to note is that everything you see in this draft traffic relief plan is not funded. Just like Coachella Valley Rail, we have a portion of the funding. We can get the environmental process started, but there's not enough funding to design or to build it. And that's the case with many of the projects you see here in this plan. So again, it's aspirational. Now, in the Coachella Valley, the way we have set up our transportation funding and policy is that CVAG is the lead. And with the way we do Measure A today, CVAG receives Measure A funding for the regional projects, and they have their Transportation Project Prioritization Study, or TPPS, and that's the way it's decided how funds are invested. And that's a similar setup that we propose in the draft traffic relief plan, and we think that works well, and we'd like to continue it. So the way the plan is set up is that funding would go to CVAG for all of these multiple investment categories here, from highways to regional connections, active transportation, public transportation, safe streets and roads, flood and blow sand control, commuter assistance, and environmental mitigation. And CVAG would take the lead in deciding what the relative split among those funds are and what projects get priority through their TPPS process. Now, that being said, we wanted to at least call out some potential investments that could be made in the Coachella Valley through this plan, and this list was developed in consultation with CVAG. It's just an example. It's not, the final list. You can see here improvements to I-10. That's become an increasing conversation at CVAG, as well as moving traffic along on Highway 111, and we certainly know that there are interchange improvements needed on the 86 on the eastern end of the valley. Local streets and roads, Coachella Valley Rail, creating more opportunities to deal with those flood and blow sand control issues that we have dealt with when the weather is bad, so that we have a resilient transportation system that can withstand whatever Mother Nature is throwing at us. There's active transportation on here, completing CV Link and extensions that connect to it, and then freeway, sir, I want to call out the little red icon here for commuter assistance. This is new for the Coachella Valley. You may have noticed when you're in other parts of Southern California, there are these little white tow trucks, actually big, but they're out there roving around on the freeway, and for someone who breaks down or gets a flat tire, before their own tow truck can get there, often we have a freeway service patrol truck that comes along, gets them off the side of the road, gets traffic moving, gets someone to safety at the next off-ramp, and they're able to make the call to AAA or to their insurance from a safer place. That's not something we have out here in the Coachella Valley. And so in this traffic relief plan, we're proposing that funding be made available for that service to...
Excuse me, do you mind if we ask questions as you go?
Oh, yeah, please,
Okay.
go ahead.
On Bridges Regional Resilient Infrastructure, it says example projects, but you got Indian Canyon, Gene Autry Trail. Anything about Vista Chino? It's been
Sure.
a very serious problem for years. Now, is that in scope with this, or?
It certainly can be, yes. Yeah, so we didn't list every single possibility on here, so certainly that's feedback we can take if it's important to mention that in the plan. We certainly can do
So
that.
do you go by priority? So who would decide what project would be prioritized?
CVAG,
CVAG would do all that.
yes.
And if I could just, I'm not an expert on this, but I believe that bridge is already funded and on its way. It, of course, doesn't appear that way to many people here because it takes years to get this going. But if I'm not wrong, and I could even ask our Public Works Director here, John. That's the reason that we're not looking at that for a future plan. It's already going to happen. It's already done. The bridge it's a Palm Springs project. So same as the rebuilding of the Ramon Road Bridge.
Got it.
It's already funded and on its way. It's a Palm Springs project that we partially contribute to. Right, so.
Thank you.
Thank you,
That
thank
helps.
you. Thank you. As I'm wrapping up here, and of course, I love the questions, and Ann here can assist in answering the questions as well. Accountability to taxpayers. If we are to proceed with implementing this plan, we do need to make sure that there are provisions in place, just like with Measure A, that there are audits, reviews, making sure that the money is going to the appropriate place and that the taxpayers have assurance that it's going to good use. If this is implemented, and I'll talk about how in a minute, through local funding, that funding cannot be diverted to Washington or Sacramento. It is truly local funding. RCTC has statutes that say any measure that we implement is restricted for administrative salaries and benefits. Only 1% of those funds can be used for administrative salaries and benefits, so the public knows that 99% is going to projects and programs. And of course, as I mentioned, another accountability mechanism is that every city in the county is represented. The entire Board of Supervisors is on the commission, and so it really is a consensus-based process to make sure that we are investing in the highest priorities. So, what RCTC is looking at to fund the traffic relief plan and the projects therein is a 1-cent sales tax that could be proposed to the voters this November. The commission has not decided whether that measure will go to the ballot, but we're in the process of, one, reviewing this plan. Do we have it right? If we do, and we want to move forward with funding the projects in this plan, do we want to propose it to the voters for funding? A 1% sales tax over the course of 30 years, according to our economic analysis, would raise approximately $25 billion countywide. About $5 billion of that would be raised in the Coachella Valley. We do have a provision in the traffic relief plan that any funds raised out here would be required to be spent out here. It wouldn't go to the western part of the county. And then vice versa, so each subregion has a return to source provision. Those funds overall countywide would support approximately 168,000 jobs over that 30-year period, approximately $10.9 billion in workforce income, and nearly $31 billion of economic output. Now, we did ask in that public opinion survey I mentioned at the beginning whether voters in this county would be supportive of a sales tax measure for transportation projects. And countywide, the answer was 67% of voters said yes when we posed that question to them. In this particular part of the Coachella Valley, 64% of voters said yes, more specifically. And then when we just asked the generic question of the voters, do you see a need for funding, more funding for transportation? 82% of them said yes. So that's why we're here. That's why we continued putting this plan together.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, go ahead.
About your percentages. Can you go back a slide? So when you asked the question of Desert Hot Springs, Palm Springs, Cathedral City, 64%, and Riverside County voters, 67%, is the difference between those two and the 82 is that you didn't say specifically where those funds would come from? Just generic.
Yeah.
Do you think we need more funding for,
Yes.
angels, right?
Right.
And most people are going to say yes until you decide how hard it is to find an angel, right?
Exactly.
So is it something like that?
That's exactly right. If you ask the generic question,
Everybody's for it.
yes, we need more funding. And then when you ask, would you be willing to pay a 1% additional sales tax to pay for it, the answer is 67% say yes, I would. Yeah. Yeah, good question. So we are taking feedback and questions online, here in this forum, various community meetings. This QR code can be scanned from your phone, takes you right to the plan. Trafficreliefplan.org has a comment form. It's really easy to use. We're getting a lot of public comments there of what people think of the plan. We certainly encourage anyone who's watching to take a look at it and let us know, and there's other means to get a hold of us here. And before I conclude, I just would like to invite Ann up to the podium to say anything she thinks I missed and have a chance to say hello.
We locked around.
Good afternoon, Ann Mayer, Executive Director of Riverside County Transportation Commission. First off, I need to say today is a Chamber of Commerce Day here in Riverside County. Whether downtown Riverside, I just came from Temecula, there's a groundbreaking down there, and then drove out to the desert, and how gorgeous can it be? So there's no secret why many of us like to stay here and think it's such a terrific place to live and work. It's also no secret why so many other people are headed in our direction in terms of making Riverside County their home. And along with that comes the need for infrastructure and services, and certainly transportation and traffic are going right up to the top of the list as things that people are most concerned about. So we appreciate, first off, Councilmember Gregory, Second Vice Chair Gregory, we appreciate your participation at RCTC and are certainly interested in the input from not only the council, your staff, but also your community members about what is important here in Cathedral City. Thank you. We're happy to answer any questions.
I do have a question. Now, the 50%, well, is that going to be, is this a tax measure? Is it going to be 50% plus one throughout the entire Riverside County, or just each city? How does that going to work?
So currently, RCTC statutes require a two-thirds vote of the electorate. It is probable that on the November ballot, ACA 1 will be on the ballot as well, and that is at 55%. So again, that is not currently law, and our commission hasn't made any decisions about whether or not it's going on the ballot in November of '24. But right now, the statutory authority we have is for two-thirds.
Okay. And my other question is, this is on sales tax, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right, thank you.
Just one follow-up question. I'm sorry. And just one follow-up question to that. So if you determine that it's going to be two-thirds of a vote, will you hesitate to the next election where it might be 55?
I don't know what decision the commission will make. And really the question will be is, what are the constituents in Riverside County saying in terms of the importance of those infrastructure improvements? I mean, there can always be an argument to wait. There can always be an argument that time is of the essence, that these improvements are needed now. In fact, many of these improvements and services were needed a decade ago. So I'm not sure what the decision will be of the commission. That's going to be something that they're going to really have to talk through about whether it makes sense or not to go in November of 2024. And does ACA 1 come into play at all?
Thank you. It's expensive just to find out if it's expensive.
Correct.
Mayor, I have something good. Mayor, okay? No, she said she had nothing. So thank you so much, Aaron, for your presentation, and thank you so much, Ann, for making the trip out here. And I have to thank you, of course, speaking for our council and for our whole region and county, and thanking you for your many years of service. I know you're within a couple of months here of retirement, and we're all, of course, jealous whenever anybody retires, but very happy for you. And you've done so many things, so thank you. It's very special that you make the trip out here while you're in the, well, I wouldn't say last hours, but while you're in the process of handing the torch over and making sure, though, that the future is will continue on, or at least we will make our best stab at it to continue on to serve the residents the best way possible.
Thank you so much. It's really been an honor and a privilege to serve Riverside County. Very much appreciate it.
Right.
And it will be in very good hands.
No, thank you, thank you. So I did want to kind of bring up an issue. We also here in Cathedral City have some very localized roadway issues. In addition to having needs for recreation, and we recently discussed the needs for some improved public safety and the ambulance service, those types of things. So Cathedral City is also looking at if local funding is something, a measure is something that we need to look at. And frankly, we're also looking at a sales tax. Our neighbor to the west, Palm Springs, has a higher sales tax combined rate than what we have, and they've used that to improve that additional funding to improve their community, and as have some other areas of the state. And so that's something we're looking at. But a big portion of what we're looking at kind of mimics what's in this traffic relief plan, and when we've gone out and done research and as to what's important to our local constituents, and they talk about filling potholes and those types of things. But I know I've had some discussions with the city manager. These two efforts, even if they both go, because we're in the same situation where we haven't decided whether we're going to go forward or not, but we have the same issues as you brought up, that, there will probably never be a time that's clearly the right time, and the needs just keep growing, and frankly, the costs of everything keeps growing even faster too. So it doesn't make sense, it seems, to at least not let the voters make that type of decision, but that's something that hasn't been decided yet. But our portion where we're looking at using funding for road projects is different than what the money would be from the measure that you're using. I mean, there could be the super slightest overlap, but even out here, and I know a lot of this goes through CVAG and it's through the TPPS project as to what gets awarded, there's not really money that's contemplated in this new measure that would go to filling potholes or repaving or rebuilding residential streets. Is that correct?
Correct. So in the Coachella Valley, all of the funding will flow through the CVAG TPPS program. So to the extent that any of those types of projects are included in that program, it could be eligible. But I think you raise a really important point here. Many of the jurisdictions within Riverside County have gone out with their own general sales tax at varying levels, but primarily to address the more localized improvements, such as filling potholes on local streets, public safety, and a variety of other purposes. And I would say that what we're doing here with this plan is complementary to that, with more of a regional focus. The regional needs here in Riverside County, whether we're talking about signal synchronization all along Highway 111 or on any of the local streets, the interchanges, rail service, those all serve a much larger regional need, and they're very, very expensive projects. So while there are some similarities, and in Western County, we do have a Safe Streets and Roads category as well, where there's a very small allocation going to some of the cities for some of the local improvements. But really, this is kind of a zero-sum game in the plan itself. The more that gets shifted to the local level, the less there is for the regional projects. And so it's really a balancing act. And again, in many of the jurisdictions, the general sales tax measures are kind of more of that local flavor versus the regional program, which is for the much larger and much more expensive projects.
Right. Yeah, I just wanted to bring this up for discussion, because should both measures go forward, I know we'll have some local voters that'll say, well, wait a second, I'm being asked to pay for roads on the regional, and I'm being asked for pay for roads on the local as part of it. So why am I being asked to pay for it twice? And I think that we're going to have to do a lot of education as to how it works here in the Coachella Valley, where this sales tax money typically does not go to repairing. Even I think even the arterials, once they're built out, that becomes a responsibility of the cities. I mean, LTF money comes, and there are other funding. SB1 money comes for that kind of stuff, but it's not enough, and so that's why we as the city need to find ways to enhance the funding to be able to pay for the things that are our responsibility. And at least out here in the Coachella Valley, if it's written the way it has traditionally been with the past Measure A, they won't overlap, because CVAG through their TPPS will pay for the big projects, and then the cities have to maintain them, and they don't pay and the big projects don't include your residential roads at all, and they don't include the ongoing maintenance even of your arterials. So I don't see there'll be an overlap, but I know of course there's some concern that people may see them as an overlap. So maybe partly we may ask RCTC at least to be cautious on the wording to make sure that if we should both go forward, that we'll make sure that there's not an insinuation that somehow the RCTC measure would be that local in the sense that it would be paying for residential roads and maintenance of the city roads.
Thank you, excellent points.
So, all right, thank you, Mayor.
Anyone else like to speak? Thank you for your presentation. It really enlightened us a lot here. I kind of got mixed feelings on this because if we do go ahead with our tax rise, it's going to be hard for me to support RCTC because then it's going to go through CVAG. And I'm not saying they're a good old boy organization, but how do we guarantee we're going to get the share, our equal share here? So I think it's just bad timing. Now, as RCTC have you ever done this before? Went in for a tax increase within the last few years? Or?
Well, we have had 2 sales tax measures in the past. So the original Measure A that was passed back in 1988, and then the one we currently have right now, which was passed by the voters in 2002. It went into effect in 2009. So yes, we have existing Measure A, has been done countywide. It has the same geographical areas, so there's Western County, Coachella Valley, and Palo Verde Valley or Blythe. So we've got the same 3 geographical areas, and also in existing Measure A, CVAG plays, and that's TPPS plays a primary role. So yes, we have done this before.
Okay.
This will be the 3rd time.
Third time, okay.
And if I could just add, I would say you're not incorrect, but we're part of the good old boys because you have a representative that serves on CVAG Transportation who then recommends to CVAG Executive Committee, which you're the current representative there. So you help guide and set the TPPS, and I know you're not too shy to advocate for Cathedral City, nor are your peers when it's their turn to serve there. We also have a great public works director, an engineering director who is not known for being shy of pushing for the needs of Cathedral City and the region, and our city manager is also very active in that. So while you're not incorrect, I would just point out we do have a voice and we do regularly exercise our voice. I would want to ask Ann or put her on the spot if I've ever maybe raised a few points inside of RCTC meetings, but I think we're good partners, but we're also good about watching out for our city and our region in a fair and even equitable way. So I would hope, I don't plan to sit here forever, but I know people will come after me, and I would hope they would do the same. And we need to always make sure we have people that are sharp and willing to speak up for our city and region when we fill those positions.
Yeah, Cathedral City is very, they watch tax a lot. Anytime we try to raise a tax or put something on, we get a lot of feedback. But now, if let's say this does pass, this measure passes for y'all, when would that actually take effect? In 2026, something like that? Because the money, it has a period coming in.
April of 2025.
April of 2025.
So if it goes to the ballot in November of '24 and it passes, the first receipts will come in April of 2025.
She said April of 2020.
Okay. All right. Council, anyone else?
Just one last question, and that is, do you anticipate drafting talking points?
We certainly can do that.
You should send some.
Okay.
Be good to look at.
Okay, we will do so. And I guess I'd just like to add a couple of other comments back to the representation from Cathedral City. So I have been in this role for 16 years now, and the entire time Cathedral City has had a very strong voice at RCTC, and I do know it at CVAG as well. And I guess one of the things that I appreciate so much about the RCTC structure and the decision-making out in the Coachella Valley is that the jurisdictions all have a voice at the table and all have a vote. And especially given the current climate at the state level in terms of availability of funding, priorities, these measures provide the opportunity for local elected officials to make the decisions for their constituents who are right there, who can come to the meetings and tell you what they think. And that's, from our standpoint, that is one of the strengths of sales tax measures, is that it's local decisions, local control of priorities, local decision-making right there within your own communities. And certainly Cathedral City has been a strong voice at RCTC for a very long time, and we appreciate that.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Anyone else? No? Okay. Tracy, is anyone from the public like to speak?
So I don't have any request to speak forms, but if you're a member of the public and you wish to provide public comment on this item, please raise your hand. I see no hands raised.
This is a presentation only for discussion and direction only. There is no formal action required. Thank you very much for attending. And now we have Greater Coachella Valley Chamber of Commerce mid-year activity update. Charlie?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. We are happy today to have with us the CEO of the Greater Coachella Valley Chamber of Commerce, Brandon Marley. And I think Stone James is going to introduce him, and we will hear an update on the activities of the chamber.
Very good. Thank you, Charlie. Mayor Pro Tem, and fellow council members, Charlie is exactly right. The CEO, Brandon Marley, is here today just to give an update on their activities, where they've been and where they are going this year. So thank you so much, Brandon.
Hello, Mayor and members of the City Council, and please bear with me. I apologize, I'm battling a little bit of an ear infection, so if I seem to tip to one side or something, I'll try to catch my balance. But thank you so much for your time today, and happy Valentine's Day. So wonderful day to be able to meet together. I'm excited to be able to come and present today, and of course, stop me at any time with any questions, comments, concerns, any of that. But I'll jump right in. First, of course, I think I've shown you a bit before, but we've had some changing faces and some growth, and at the next one, we'll also have some more growth. We're excited about that. But our team currently, myself here, Barb Chodas, who is actually here in attendance today, is our Director of Operations. She's been with us for a couple months now. You may remember Barb previously worked with the Desert Sun, ran sales and operations there about 5 or 6 years ago, I believe, somewhere in that ballpark. So she's been a wonderful asset to join our team. Joe Beth, which of course all of you know, still serves as our Director of Business Development. Tina Rodriguez is our Events Manager. She has been a godsend, started the same day as me, and we forever celebrate our anniversary with last year's Cathedral City State of the City. So that'll be exciting to see that come around again. We also have Terry Cates, who is our Membership Experience Coordinator. Pretty much anything with membership outside of sales is Terry. Natalie Santana is one of our newest reps that works with us. She works out of our Coachella office. She is our Administrative Coordinator. So you'll see a lot of stuff with invoices and things like that coming from her. And then Linda Sanchez is our marketing coordinator. She's working a lot with me hands-on on that. She's pretty raw, pretty new to the world of marketing, a great photographer, but really kind of coming to her own on that. And you'll see more and more on that, more activity on our social media and everything like that going forward. We also will have some new faces that are going to be joining here soon. I'll talk a little bit about that further into the presentation. We don't know who those are, but we're excited to see them join.
Brandon, how long has Linda been employed?
Linda's been with us probably about 2 or 3 months. I will say for about a month period there, she definitely held the hat of events coordinator going through Southwest Arts Festival. Linda's very new to the marketing world, so she's really kind of learning that side of things. We didn't quite have the budget to get an experienced person on that side of things, so she's pretty raw, and we're looking at those things. We're also going to be bringing in some interns over the summer as well.
So is she responsible for the internet, social networking and all that?
Yeah, she's getting further delved into social and all of those sort of things, our newsletter. She's getting her feet wet with graphic design. Luckily, my wife's a graphic designer with Visit Greater Palm Springs, so she's getting to sponge a bit off of her. But definitely new to that side, and there's definitely lots of growth that we want to see.
Before her?
Me. So that was really it. The last time we had someone in-house was when I was with the chamber previously. We had a couple people on and off for about a year that were contractors that did a little bit of work with us. It's definitely somewhere where I think we've improved. We have a long way to go. We'll continue to work on that side and just continue to get more active, get a little bit more exposure up for our businesses. I think we've done that well in our newsletter. Social media is definitely somewhere where we want to continue to gain strength on that side. And any recommendations are definitely greatly appreciated. Any other questions on that side? All right, we'll move forward. Our GCV marketing, again, we are very strong, especially on our newsletter side. We are over 50%. When I was looking at it just earlier today, we're actually at about 54% open rate, which is well above the market average. I think chamber average sits around 15 to 16% open rate.
I don't really know what that means.
That means of the 6,500 emails that we send out, we approximately get over 50% of them that get opened. So market averages usually sit somewhere between 10 and 20, depending on the industry. Chamber is usually sitting at 15 to 16%. I had some time to spend this past week at the Western Area Chamber Executives event. I graduated from that, if you saw our newsletter today. But I got to spend a lot of time with other large regional chambers. I think what I was generally hearing was between like a 35 to 50% was where I was hearing a lot of those.
How do you find your email subscribers?
We run everything through Constant Contact, so it gives us lots of great data. It gives us ways we should do better about when we're sending them, subject lines, all of those sort of things. I'm a bit of a data junkie, so I never want to lean on just what's going on up here. I want to make sure there's some smarter technology that's directing me. So we always try to really guide that side of things. But on the social media, we continue to upscale on followers. We want to make sure that's done organically. I don't want to go out and buy fake accounts off of Facebook or anything. So we're always trying to drive that side. We want to really gain those things organically, as we also do with membership as well, rather than just going out and purchasing those things. But we're definitely seeing an uptick in engagement on it, which is where we want to produce more content, but produce it in a smart way, in a relevant way that helps get our members exposure. All righty. So this one I keep a little brief because it's a pretty broad subject. So my focus from day one with our chamber has been, let's follow the roadmap of what other successful regional chambers of commerce have seen. And it's never been a push to sell new members. In our mind and in my mind, if we're doing a good job with our members will sell members. They'll tell other businesses about us. We want to go out, we want to be in the community, we want to knock the doors, we want to do the business walks in a good way, not a salesy way. And see what our members are looking for and see what our non-members are looking for and how we can help them and jump in. That's where we'll gain that membership retention. We're starting to see some dividends from that. We're not able to pull proper reporting yet. The reason for that is throughout the COVID timeframe, we let a lot of people go as courtesy members. So we're on the backside of that, kind of cleaning that up. What I've seen from a lot of chambers is they kind of cut that off about 1.5 years ago. We cut that off about 6 months ago. So we're still kind of cleaning that side up. We don't want to just dump a bunch of people just because they haven't been aware that they had a bill. So we want to give them an opportunity to engage with us, become part of us more, start to see some of that value, and then let them decide, if this is something that they feel is a good fit for them or not. So we're working on that side. I will say 985 is where we were sitting when I pulled this report at the end of last month. I did look today, and we had you're one of the first public agencies to get to hear this, but we did officially teeter over 1,000 members again for the first time since COVID, so we were very excited to see that today. I think it was a good Valentine's Day present for us. But again, it's not been a drive to sell new members. It's been members selling those, giving referrals, getting people to come onto the website and sign up and starting to see the value in what we're doing again.
So the 985, how many from Cathedral City?
Cathedral City address, I think it's somewhere between 100 and 150 of those regionally, but that's what you're going to see with a lot of chambers of commerce. So it's not specifically just groups in there, and then a lot of the ones that we have that service you, like the builders and things like that, their addresses all over the state. So I think your guys' percentage sits around that 10 to 15% area of our membership. But we're doing a lot of things to get our boots on the ground here in town as well. And there's a lot of places that want to service here. We get them from everywhere. I've seen a handful of the members that have signed up as businesses from Cathedral City. They didn't even see us at a Cathedral City event. They would come to one that we had in La Quinta or something like that. So it's the regional supports local thing that we continue to push. And we're, of course, going to drive to get members, but I don't want to go out and just that to be our driving force. I want to be able to be out there in the community and see what the businesses are really needing, and that value will bring them to the table. And we don't charge for a lot of the things, even like with our mixers and whatnot. Those are open member, non-member. We don't charge for those. We also want our members, even if someone doesn't want to pay for a membership, we still want our members to be able to experience them and potentially gain business from them as well. So 985, 77 new members that we've had this year. That, of course, has scaled up in the last week. I did look at the numbers, didn't see exactly what caused it, but we had a good uptick in the last week, so I'll take it. So that's been positive to see as well. So events, as of what we've had so far this year, our All Valley Mayors and our State of City events, they've been sold out. Every single one of them we've had in some way, shape, or form has sold out. So We're really excited to see that, a large uptick from several of them. We are doing them at the same location with y'all this year, so we run into a room cap. You guys did too well last year, so I don't think I can one-up that too much because we do run into the amount of people we can have in the room. But we already have a lot of chatter. Pretty much all the sponsors that came on last year have already come back on board. They're excited to see what's going on in Cathedral City. They're excited to see what's going on in the Valley in general. So we'll continue to try to enhance those without trying to increase rates. Our goal with any of our mission-based events, which is, State of the Cities definitely suit that, is to not lose money on them. So we're not looking to raise rates on sponsorships and all those sort of things. Cover those things and make sure we can get as many people that want to be in and find out about the community as possible. So we do have that coming up on May 14th. We do have a Cathedral City mixer this year. We did something a little different with our mixers this year. We created a little bit of a fun rivalry with the local chamber boards. We gave them each their own mixer, and at the end of the year at our installation dinner, we're going to crown Mixer of the Year. Everyone gets to vote with that, so there's been surveys that have gone out post the events, really trying to create a unique experience for them and give something fun for the local boards to really wrap their hands around and really enhance and showcase Cathedral City and the business community here. So we've partnered up with Agua Caliente. We're going to be having it right here across the street. They were great. They came in and did a grant sponsorship for the event, so food and will be provided. There will be a cash bar, but we will have food provided for free. And then the board has really put some great work. I have Shelley here, and thanks so much for coming out and showing your support today, Shelley. He's been very involved with it as well. We just had a board meeting this morning over at Drop By Office right across the road here. And they're very excited about it. We're going to be honoring a handful of specific members. But then we tried to get kind of a list of everyone we found that did something for the businesses during that storm to really recognize them in some way, shape, or form. So we have a program that's been sponsored and paid for that we're going to be having all those listed on. You'll have a rolling list of all the businesses and everything, and then some specific awards as well. So looking forward to that event, and hopefully building that to hopefully create some funding for some of the businesses that were affected. Fraser Pest Control, that's one that hits home for us with Julie and Joe serving on our board for years. I know I'll talk a bit about that in a moment, but going out there, my wife and I, shoveling mud out of that building, it was tough to see, and they're good people, and they're in a tough spot. So any kind of recognition, not particularly to raise funds directly, but to give them some recognition and bring some more business in their door, I think is one of the best things that we can do for them. So yeah, we'll have that out on February 21st at Agua Caliente Casino. It should be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. So during the Hillary storms, there was a lot of things that we did during that, and I think one of the biggest things that we found coming out of it is a lot of people's hands were tied. That goes from state, federal, county, city, everywhere. And I think one of the issues that we saw, there's lots of notes in here of stuff that we did during it, trying to work with our legislators, was that there's just no real pocket at a state or county level for someone who's received a minor, major incident. There just oddly didn't seem like there was enough damage to get a heavy response on any level. So what we want to do in the long term is we're working with a lot of local agencies across the region to create a task force that can consolidate resources for any sort of emergency situation. That's not happening overnight. I wanted it to, but we're working through that process. Cathedral City will definitely have a spot on that task force as well. Really what it's meant to do is, where would we go during a situation to get water? Where could we get backhoes? Where could we get basically anything you would need during any sort of catastrophe? And how could we jump in quickly and help the businesses with that? In my mind, and of course these things evolve over time, we want to be able to be about quarterly on that just to make sure that we have our ducks in a row and have all the pieces in place. So I think that's something that can make a huge impact, and we don't know whether the next thing's going to happen in Cathedral City or Palm Springs or La Quinta, but we want to be prepared because we live in California. We know natural disasters happen all the time, and no one expected this to happen at that level. So we want to make sure that we get some things in place for the long run. And we'll take any input, feedback, help in any way, shape, or form that we can. Rediscover Cathedral City. So this isn't really our idea per se, but it's something we want to jump in with. Councilmember Lamb came to a meeting a few months back and kind of paired in a little bit with things we were kind of working on as well. We have a good grip on a pocket of businesses, I think, in Cathedral City, but there's definitely some areas that we haven't really been able to get our hands wrapped around, and it requires much more grassroots efforts. It's not something where I'm going to send 50 emails and they're going to show up. We need to go knock on the door and gain their trust. So there's a handful of different areas that we're really trying to hit and really be boots on the ground. Not walking in really looking for anything specific yet. What we've been trying to do is get into a place to where if we are coming in and asking questions, they're going to be receptive to it and understand that there's not anything we're looking to get from them, we're looking to give. So how can we do that? And we know they're unique. That's the one thing with the Chamber of Commerce. It's not cookie cutter. Every business is going to have different needs. And we want to make sure that we're aware of that and we can assess it, we can jump in and handle it, or we can find new resources maybe that we didn't have before to help them. So that's really that grassroots effort. We'll be inviting council to come along on those walks. Business walks can sound great, but they're often not very effective. They're just kind of for social media to take some quick pictures, which we will get those up. But at the same time, we want to make sure that we're asking those questions, we're finding out what they need, and we're working collaboratively with the city so we can try to help resolve some of those issues or show some support, or there's probably a lot of things we're just not even thinking of. That those businesses are experiencing on a day-to-day basis. Maybe some of them will become members, maybe not. It's fine either way. We just want to make sure that we're able to help provide those resources and help those businesses along the way. So this is definitely not going to be an overnight. This is going to be a continued process, and we're looking forward to working with you on it. Workforce development, that's been a big piece since I've come on board that I wanted to get involved in. We're excited to see that moving forward pretty rapidly. We are in the final phases of our first ever workforce development grant. It's $125,000. It's ARPA funds that have been left with workforce development. All districts within Riverside County have had a chance to get access to it. We're at the final award phase. We're just waiting on the board to sign the bottom of it. We have the contract in place and everything. So it's a really good program. It allows for businesses to get their new employee paid for up to $21 an hour for the first 90 days that they're with the company. There's a lot of training opportunities, grant training for the companies. We'll be administering the program, and then the county will actually be doing the portion of the actual pay, the training, all of those sort of things. So we'll be bringing on a new staff member for that. That's part of the grant. The grant will pay for that. We're titling them Workforce Liaison. There's a lot of other regional chambers throughout California that have seen some huge success off of workforce development grants and really been able to expand what they need. One of the common things that I keep hearing is I cannot find staff, I cannot get staff, I cannot pay staff. And that's really where we want to jump in and help. There's some great programs at a state and county level. Some fantastic ones out there. I think that people aren't aware of a lot of them, and I don't think it's from a lack of trying on the county or state side. I think it's a lack of manpower, and I think that's where we can come in and fill that void. I don't like to duplicate efforts. I don't want to do the things that they're already doing. I want to help support and enhance those things and jump in where we can help. So that's what we're really looking forward to on that side. This will be the first of many of these that we're hoping to get going forward, but I think this is definitely a step in the right direction. And finally, some new partnerships that we've gotten this year. I am proud to say, as my staff likes to call me Mr. Krabs, I don't like to spend any money. So these cost us $0 for these two partnerships, but we gained a great partnership with Palm Springs International Film Festival this year. We had a recap with them yesterday that went really well. There's some exciting things that we're hoping to potentially bring to the city's table as well next year for the Family Fest. There's more things that they want to do with that. And we want to be able to support through that. There's a lot of regionalized efforts that they're wanting to do, getting involved in education, and they're really taking us as an anchor piece for that, to work with them going forward. So we're excited for the partnership. The event was great. That was very nice to go to. Ran into some of you there. It was lovely. But we're more excited about what's to come and how we can help expand these programs and create some more opportunities throughout the valley and create some job expansion, bring in some companies that are going to be focused on film because of the film focus educationally that we're seeing going through the valley. The other is the Desert Town Hall. We did create a collaboration with them. Long-term, I think we're hoping to see some more things on the student side of that, to really create some business and legislative education components for that. They do a lot with schools. If you've been to a Desert Town Hall program before, there's the great program that you're in on one side, but on the other side of the resort, there's a bunch of students from all over the Coachella Valley that are learning from these great speakers. And we want to take that and have it not just be a one-off. We really want to help. How can we expand that? How can we nurture that going forward and really try to bring up the next generation of what is the business community and work collaboratively with some other organizations as well on that. So we're excited about that, and that's a handful of the pieces that we've been working on, things we're continuing to work on going forward. So I'll ask for any questions that you may have.
I just wanted to say, and thank you for bringing up the Rediscover Cathedral City, and because I think, from my understanding and from my knowledge, during COVID, when we were allocated certain amount of masks and hand wipes, I went to the different businesses, and there are clusters of businesses in each of these little strip malls like the one on Ramon and Landau. And I didn't even know those businesses existed. It's not near my house, so, shop local, I probably shop too local. So, that was it. So, Cathedral City, like every city, depends on either, taxes, either from property taxes or TOT tax. And so to revive and reinvigorate the businesses already existing is just one avenue that I thought we could explore, and so that was the point of that. So I like the fact that, I'm very appreciative of the fact that you recognize that and we can work together on that. And during that conversation at the Coachella Valley Chamber of Commerce, the discussion was that it is local, that lots of those businesses are not receptive to people all knocking on doors, and they don't understand it. They're working in the business the day we arrive, and so they don't have time to really explore what are the possibilities. So I'm certainly willing to work on that going forward. So thank you.
Yeah, I think that's what we've seen, and that's what I talk about when I talk about grassroots. It's, a lot of the businesses right here on 111, they're very receptive. They're used to people walking in the doors all the time. A lot of them, their business comes from friends and family. And they run into a lot of their own challenges, and those challenges stop them from growing or expanding or moving their business in a way that they want to move it. And those challenges vary. And some of them are just not realizing something's available or something's accessible to them. And I think that's where that comes from. So we've started that process. We've started knocking on those doors. A few have been answered, a few have been closed, but we'll knock again. And I think that's the key of what we keep doing, and it's chipping away at those areas and making them understand we're here to help, we're here to support, and we want to know what you need from us on that side.
Sales technique. You say you let the members word of mouth. So you think that's really effective, letting somebody else
Yeah,
try to get...
I don't want to say no sales at all. I'm probably going a little far on that. We, of course, are always opening membership to people. We're always going to promote it. I don't want to beat them over that. I don't want the one thing that we're doing going in is saying, buy our membership. Buy our membership. And I think I've seen that from a lot of organizations. Mm-hmm. We want to provide what we have access to. Here's the value of it. If you'd like to be a member, we'd love to talk to you about that. But we do want to know what's affecting you as a business. So I guess just not being as pushy is more where I'm going. We, of course, always want to get members. We're getting new members. It's happening. And there's a lot of things we're doing with our ambassador corps going forward where they're going to be able to help with that. But we don't want people to feel pressure sold. And I think for a long time, with all of the chambers across the valley, including ours, they've felt that, and we've had it brought to our attention a lot. And that's the last thing I want. I want the pay for the portion of the membership for the year is one thing. I want them to feel and understand what the value of that is, and I think that's more where my focus. So that probably, okay. I pushed that a little too far, sorry. Right, no I don't want to pressure set, right. Probably more than anything. Mayor Pro Tem. We're always looking for new members.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
It's really important that I get the point across that I have talked to you about Cathedral City, and I understand you talk about the Coachella Valley. But my concern is here. That's where our taxpayer dollars are.
Certainly.
It pays me, a big salary, right? So, my major concern is going to be for the people here. And so my first question, which I only just now wrote, is what is the cost of membership?
So it varies depending on the size of business. So if you're just a small regular business, it's $360 for the year. We have payment plans and things like that. That's pretty standard on Chambers as far as that goes. And then it goes all the way up to $720, and that's for a multi-use corporation that has tons of locations and all those.
That doesn't alarm me in any way. So one of the things that I noticed, areas in which I'm concerned,
Okay.
and I think you probably remember last year I came with a bit of a battle axe, and I didn't put it too far back in my closet for this year. I noticed that between January 1st and February 10th, that was just a time I picked, that you reached out to me personally 6 times. Now, you're my chamber, I expect you to have communication with me. The Palm Desert Chamber, who I do not belong to, reached out to me 33 times. And oftentimes again and again and again on something specific. So let me give you an example. The Southwest Arts Festival. I received one email. I actually received more from the Palm Desert than I did from you. But when I went out there, it was a really poor turnout. I was there Saturday, midday. It should have been the pinnacle of your attendance. And vendors grumbled, and there just weren't very many people there. And I felt badly for that circumstance, even though that wasn't Cathedral City. So, are you okay? So, and one of the things you'll probably remember is last year I talked at great lengths about the business pages and how things like the Boys and Girls Club was now what was it called? The CCBC was called the Canadian Chinese Business Council when it was supposed to be something. And you took that all down. You took it all down, and you did. But when we look now at the Greater Coachella Valley Cathedral City page, it starts with a picture of our beautiful downtown that was taken from before we even had a casino. So we know that that's got to be at least 5 years in the past, and the casino is really one of our big plugs for the city. It's lovely. It's a lovely building. It's right next to City Hall. It's important. We broke ground on that in November 4th, 2019. I think you were there, Shelley, weren't you? That day? I think you was there. So if you're trying to show our achievements, I would suggest pictures that were more.
Sure.
Then beneath that picture is a 2-paragraph narrative of where our city is under a list of something called Chamber News. The definition of news is information about current events. You have 9 different pictures that rotate around and around. The first one is a mixer recap of Mary Pickford is Displaced, which was hosted on July 25th, 2022. The second one was a congratulations to the 2022 Business Awards winners, July 5th of 2022. The third of the 9 is a letter of support from the Senate requesting funding sent April 28th, 2022. Number 4 was the opposition of Senate Bill 213 sent February 14th, 2022. The number 5 was the notice of a letter of concern to Senators Feinstein and Padilla sent February 14th, 2022, which is particularly alarming since Dianne Feinstein died last year. Number 6 is your opposition to Assembly Bill 1400 that went out on February 14th, 2 years ago today. The Halloween Spooktacular of 10/30/2022. The Boys and Girls Meatball Festival on September 13th of 2022. And the last of the 9 things that goes around on our front page is the Voices of Business 2023. That is the most current thing you have there.
That sounds like there's an issue with our site. So I'll have to take a look at that. That shouldn't be happening. So the way our site's built is it should be pulling in news that we categorize. So we have categories for the different cities and it should be pulling that in. It sounds like it's not. So I'll take a look at that and I apologize for that.
These are 2-year-old postings from 2022, all but the one, the very last one from 2023.
Certainly.
It's sad, but it's also really frustrating. Because although, next to the millions as a city we spend, I represent a low-income neighborhood. $73,000 is a lot of money to them. $73 can be a lot of money to some of them. And it is incumbent upon me and my fellow council members, depending on how they feel, that we spend our money in the best representation for our city we can. And this isn't it. I mean, it just isn't it. So what I see from this is, in 2 years, nobody's looked at our site to see the carousel, or they did and they just didn't care to change it. And neither one of those are the answers that I want to hear. Can you understand that?
Yeah, we've had some issues with the carousels in the past, and what it's been is it's been an update or something going wrong with it where it's pulling information from the wrong place. So it's clearly not pulling the most updated information, so I'll have to make sure we work with our web company to get that fixed.
So under the title of our partners, Cathedral City Partners, most of the links are broken. They just don't go anywhere. So it appears we have no partners, or very few partners at best. This isn't what makes Cathedral City look good, and honestly, I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed that I represent a site that so poorly represents us. And I don't like to hammer on you. I don't like to hammer on anybody. I raised kids. I got through teenage years. You know, I don't like this. But we can't change until we can establish what is best for the city.
Sure.
And so not only am I a little bit embarrassed and I see the system as being dysfunctional, you know, we have to look back and say, we pay a great deal of money for that service. And I understand that you represent lots of cities and everybody pays in and that's how it works. But I only need to look out for my city and for my people. And $73,000, I'm not seeing it. I understand you do events, you do our Save the City, but that's a profitable event. And you do, what else do you do? What else do you do? Come on, there's another. Pardon me? I don't, there was no. I don't think you get rich off of them, but they are, you do make some money off of them. The sales of tables, the sales of the booths, things like that. And so I'm going to have to take, I mean, during this year, we have a big year on your contract, but I'm going to have to take a deep look and have an opportunity to talk to staff and other people. Is that our best use to promote our city? And so unfortunately, I didn't feel like I couldn't share that with you, because if you don't know, how are you going to fix it?
Certainly.
But it also, you know, I also did this last year, and those things from 2022 were a year old then.
I would suspect that they weren't like that. It sounds like there's an error, an issue with the plugin there. So our site's built on a WordPress platform, and almost everything on it's through a plugin. So it sounds like there's an issue with the plugin because...
So in all fairness, if that didn't happen this week, who's looking at our site? Who's looking at it? Who's saying, gee, is that site up to date? Is that site accurate? Is the information on there the best information we can give Cathedral City for a limited amount of money? I'm not asking you to do Herculean things.
Sure.
I'm asking you to do the bare minimum to support our city.
Yeah, that would be our staff. So we'll go through it and make sure it's cleaned and work with our web agency to make sure that that's updated.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Any other council member? No? You know, I can't disagree with Mayor Pro Tem. She was spearheaded this last year, and quite honestly, we had the same conversation, and we heard the same thing, but you were saying, we'll take a look at it, we'll take a look at it. And I remember the website was the most embarrassed thing, but, you know, it seems like it's still happening, you know, so, Charlie, when do we review contract with the chamber? When does that come about?
Our contracts run on a fiscal year basis, so the current one runs through the end of June. So sometime this spring, in advance of that, we'll be taking a look at the 24-25 contract.
Okay. Well, you got some months to, you know, really tune it up and make it look a lot better. You know,
Sure.
when I think of the chamber, I think of a site where you could click on and say, is there a dentist in Cathedral City, or is there a restaurant in Cathedral City? What's to do in Cathedral City? You know, dirt fields, and, you know, it just doesn't cut it. And thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, for standing up and saying what you did say, because it's the truth, man. It's not really working. Joe Beth was here last year, and she does a good job. Enjoy her company and all, but yeah, I think you know what we're saying here, because this is just for presentation only and information, so, okay. Do we have anyone from the? Not personal. Definitely not.
Understand.
No. Tracy, you have anyone from the public? I don't see anyone.
I don't have any request to speak forms, but if you are a member of the public and you wish to provide public comment, now would be the time. And I don't see any hands, Mayor.
You know, I might recommend reach out to Mayor Pro Tem Ross or myself, maybe get some input, or any one of the council members you feel comfortable with, and see, maybe two, reach out and say, hey, what do you guys want? And
Certainly.
work together on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to collaborate, meet,
Okay.
talk, connect anytime.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much.
All right. This is a presentation only for discussion and direction only. There is no formal action required. And right now, this meeting is adjourned. Well, we got some time here.